And we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We've got a big show today. I'm joined by Kostas Chalkias. He's here from Mr. Labs. We're going to talk about zkLogin, zk Tech more broadly, and Sui. We've got a lot to cover. Kostas, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Good to see you again. It was like a few months ago that we see each other in London, right?
zk10, epic
Let's say
event there.
yes.
You put on a brilliant show, and I figured it's only fair to bring the great content you were sharing around zkLogin to the LinkedIn audience. So thanks for making it today.
Exactly, and you will hear a more interesting approach that we have on zkLogin even for the future, which I hope there will be some juicy content today.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. Thank you so much for coming to us live from Dubai. Hope it's sunny and warm out there, nicer than maybe some of the rest of Europe and the US is facing right now. Thank you, everybody, for dialing in and joining in here on LinkedIn Live. As always, if you have any questions for Kostas, if you have any questions for myself, please do put them in the comments below. I'll do my best to multitask and pick up as many of them as I can as we go along. And we'll leave enough time for questions and answers at the back end of the show as well. Without further ado, Kostas, for people who don't know you, please give us your brief origin story if you can. I know you've done a lot of things in a short career around Web3, but please let us know what you've been up to for those people who haven't come across you so far.
Amazing. And I will start with something that people don't expect. I started from machine learning. So I'm now in cryptography and ZK. But to tell you the truth, I'm almost 40 now. And while I was in the university, I was doing like some algorithms for trading. Imagine going very deep into mathematics since then, like from my 16, 17. And then I was hacked. And literally, I had a small fund that was actually making predictions for traders. And because I was hacked, I took it very seriously. And then I said, okay, I will never be hacked again. I will learn security, I will learn cryptography. And then I had my PhD on technologies that is used now, even from Zcash or some other blockchains that are doing, zero knowledge, privacy preserving technologies and all of this stuff. My PhD was actually particularly on the topic of timed release encryption. And you will hear about this, like encrypting something into the future. And then eventually you will see it like as a time capsule. I was lucky by the time I finished my PhD, 2009. You can imagine what is 2009. Bitcoin was there, and then eventually people like us, who our only future was to be an academic, eventually we found a new space to actually do interesting stuff. And then starting from then, I created a startup. I did time capsules literally for national exams. Imagine you're encrypting all of the questions, and then eventually all of the questions are showing up. So there is like some fairness between users with faster internet and users with slower internet. We had some issues I'm coming from Greece originally. We had some issues where some remote schools were getting the topics after the previous people actually finished the exams. So we had to solve this problem, right? And cryptography was literally your friend. And then eventually I was very, very lucky because one of the first developers of Satoshi, Mike Harm, who actually is the author of the Java version of the Bitcoin, Bitcoin J. He invited me to join a consortium. I was in London back then, actually, for a company called R3 and for the Corda network, like a bunch of bankers and commercial companies, like 200 of them, created probably the biggest consortium back then. They wanted to defend against Bitcoin, I believe, and Ethereum. Like, imagine people are getting into the decentralized world. Let's do our banking also decentralized. But I learned a lot. Imagine sitting with a person who actually did the first lines of Bitcoin and atomic swaps, if I remember correctly, hash-based, hash-time-locked atomic swaps. So I worked a lot. I worked with SGX, trusted executed environment, zero knowledge proofs eventually. And it was the time on 2018 that Facebook hired me to work on the Libra project. So the Libra project, as you all know, started as Libra, and then eventually it was renamed to Diem. It was probably the first effort from a big organization to get into the space, and they hired a lot of cryptographers. To tell you the truth, I don't believe there was a more expensive team than what Facebook tried to do back then with all of the talents around the world. And I'm happy actually because we got many of the talents when the Libra collapsed and we created Mysten. The reason that Sui managed to launch that fast, and now I'm leading the cryptography at Mysten with another 4 co-founders from the Libra team that were the most successful promotion, every year and all of this stuff. We picked the best people from there. And then after the collapse of this project, Mysten emerged. and we took all of this technology. We're doing very interesting stuff. As you will see today, one of the things that we couldn't solve back then, we managed to solve it because we're moving faster now. So yes, here I am today. And the other thing that you probably should know is I'm a white hat hacker, like by profession. So I did a lot of like hacking on even Ethereum contracts. I found some like spectacular attacks in the past. In lottery contracts where there was some bias on the outcome, like randomness, zero knowledge, breaking signature algorithms. Proof of solvency, probably you have heard about my work on how I realized that some exchanges, actually centralized exchanges, had some issues on proving their solvency. And I'm
One or
leading
two.
this effort, actually. I'm leading the effort of applying zero knowledge proofs for, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. It's scratching a little bit, but let's keep it rolling.
Okay. I think it's better now. So, okay, yes. Here I am now, and I'm doing all of the cool stuff that you will hear today. zkLogin is probably my baby. And yes, let's discuss about it.
All right, let's jump into it. Thank you for the introduction from academia to white hat hacking, R3 to Facebook, Facebook to DM, DM to Sui. So it's some journey.
Yes, exactly.
As a reminder, guys, do give us your GMs. Let us know where you're coming in from. We want to try and make sure that we keep the content relevant to where you are in the world. Any questions you have, feel free to fire them in. It's great to see people coming in from all over the place now, including some other fellow Greeks. Love to see the Greek community dialing in, guys coming in from the US, Africa. Really appreciate all of you coming in and joining us here on LinkedIn Live. So, Kostas, zk and login specifically has become your baby of late. It's become your pet project. It's become something that clearly I think it's very powerful if you start with something tangible, something small, something significant, and demonstrate success. And I think that's what you've done. But backing away for 1 minute, what's the problem with what's the issue with login? What's the issue with credentials today? And why did you feel it needed fixing?
Exactly. To give you a hint, we tried to solve the problem at Facebook as well. It wasn't easy, right? Imagine if you have like all of the people, I know how the average person on Instagram is actually reacting. I was helping different teams at Facebook. I was also involved in the WhatsApp development at the end of my career at Facebook. I realized that we had a huge problem on actually people remembering credentials. I mean, sometimes they're even putting like very like low entropy credentials in their platforms, and they are lazy. That's the other thing, right? It's not necessarily the fact that we want like some extra security. People don't take the amount of time, the effort actually to do it properly. And then we realized, how can you actually give these people, I mean, getting into a Web3 environment, they want to have these self-sovereign accounts, yeah, they're using MetaMask and all of the other wallets, but then you create an account and then some 12 words pop up and you don't know what to do with them. Because there is another thing. People are also familiar with passwords, like generic passwords. But what about the words, right? The words sometimes feel to the person that is not technical like a backup code. Like, I don't necessarily need to remember this to get access back to my account because, you know, there is always the forgot password. and that's why many actually fail to enter the space, or they don't even copy this information. And even if they do, they don't copy it properly. Like, they have it in their emails, they send it here and there, they probably have it on their desk. You know, the cleaning service comes to your house and they can find your password. I actually found and audited a few of these cases in the past. And then I said, okay, we need actually to improve the onboarding mechanism for the user. And it's not only this, right? Onboarding, as you will see, like all of you here today, we solved both the problem of onboarding, but also discoverability. And you will see what I mean about this. So then we said, okay, people are familiar with logging in with Google, with Facebook, with Apple, with this kind of stuff. Can we make it actually possible just with this information to be able to create an address on chain? You don't need anything else, right? You just need to remember your Google. You forgot your Google password. You go there, forgot my password. You can probably enable 2FA. You are more secure just because there is another company actually protecting your account. And then we said, okay, this can probably actually work because the average person, the average gamer, the average trader, the average new generation person, they can probably do that because they are already familiar with. Like all of the big companies spend a lot of time to actually make us familiar with all of these technologies, and now we use it everywhere. And then we said, okay, but if we do this, then your identity will be linked on the blockchain, right? And then this will not actually be like great for the privacy. Imagine myself after Cambridge Analytica and all of this stuff coming from a Facebook company, like how can I propose a system where there is privacy links, like leaks in the sense that you're linking an email with a particular identity on chain. People don't want this, right? We are in the decentralized world. We had to use some privacy preserving technologies. The nice thing is that since 2016, there is a development on zero knowledge proofs, and we will discuss about this stuff, I guess, later. But because now they're practical, I said, okay, if I can make it with zero knowledge proofs to get like this information you get from Google when you log in with Google, you take this information, probably you add some extra like salt inside this address, so you hide your email on the chain, like salt and pepper, we're putting some extra bit of information to hide your email, and you create this address. And every single time, then you can log in back to your address without having to have an extra password. That would be great. Can zero knowledge proofs do this? Can they get something from Google or Facebook, create a blockchain address, and then eventually the user can go back again and again without remembering a key? And then many asked me, how can you do this? Because if you do this, then Google can actually take over your account. And we found ways to actually create another 2FA system where your wallet has this salt and pepper that we discussed before. Google has the login with Google, and then eventually you can create an account now that nobody controls. And nobody's a custodian, actually. And this is actually super useful because for the first time, we enabled no secrets, no extra secrets, and nobody's a custodian, which means that it's your account. The wallet itself cannot do anything. Google itself cannot do anything. And nobody can see the links, actually, which is the great information, like theoretic outcome of this work. And we managed to do this. And now with zkLogin, we created the first native mechanism. It's not even requiring a smart contract to connect your wallet, your Google account into the blockchain, and nobody can see that it's you. And now every single time you go back, you don't need to remember a password. You don't need to remember a key. A fresh key is generated again and again, and you're getting the blessing from your Google and your wallet, and then you can have access to your account. This is the magic of zero knowledge proofs. And I know many, many people tried to do it in the past. I will give you a very interesting motto that I heard very recently. One of the most popular, notable cryptographers in the world actually mentioned to us, how come we haven't thought about this all of this time? So many actually try to solve the decentralized identity problem for different reasons, sometimes to access your bank, sometimes to be able to do other types of like transactions. But for authentication, many failed because they didn't actually get the benefits of zero knowledge. They didn't found a way to make it practical. And we managed to do it in less than 2 seconds. And this actually breaks this barrier we had previously on the practicality, and we have it now.
Very cool. Very cool. So we've got a few different
that's
problems.
How exactly.
We can
and the reason
we've got the Web 2 centralized identity management problem, which is Google, Apple, Facebook, whoever has all of my stuff all of the time. We don't want that. We've got the Web 2 to Web 3 interface challenge, which is we want to enable those two webs to merge, but we don't necessarily want somebody to hand over the keys or the specific details of their Web3 wallet because we want to preserve that pseudonymity. Imagine Facebook, Google, Apple already has enough details about you behind closed doors. Suddenly you then add your wallet address, you then add your crypto, your NFTs, your transaction data on chain. That's an awful lot of sensitive financial data that we don't want a centralized party to have. And we also have the Web3 onboarding problem, which is the mnemonics, the key phrases, the ability to have to, or the need to have to keep passphrases somewhere else to be able to manage wallets is not a great user experience. So we've got to take all that together, and the answer is zkLogin.
Exactly. And imagine it's not only this, right? We have to consider that there are not native English speakers out there, and the mnemonics are typically based on the English language. And imagine when you go to someone and you're asking for words like cabbage, the vegetable. Oh, it's written with double B. Do you believe that many people know this? Or there is cinnamon, or there is saddle, or there is some other words that they cannot even spell it, like mosquito. Do you know that many people don't know how mosquito is written? So even if you have this, right, it wouldn't work because there is also the language barrier. That's how we actually took an approach. Let's get rid completely from this like passwords and all of this like words that people cannot remember, and build something new. And I can give you another hint. One of my first words in the past was pass doodles, draw your password. One of the reasons that we have now, this thing that you're drawing something on your phone is one of my best words, and I won a best paper award back in 2006 or something. And then many other companies followed. They took it in their own patenting office, and yeah, I lost all of the credits, unfortunately, down the road. But now I have zkLogin.
I think you ended up in a good place no matter what. So
Yeah.
so talk us through a zkLogin process then.
Yes. So zkLogin, right? What is this and how it works? So typically, I will try to like demystify the way all of these things can actually be viable today. When you log in with Google or Facebook or Apple, do you know what's happening in the background? I mean, most people don't understand what's happening, right? You just automatically get something, and the website or whatever is behind understands that you're a Google user. So in reality, what's happening is Google is sending you a signed, like digitally signed document that says, this is you, this is your ID, and probably you can have more information into this document. It's not like a cookie that we had in the past. It's like a modern type of cookie. Imagine it's a document that Google signs, like put their signature. Oh, I know this is Kostas' email. This is like Kostas' user ID. And I'm putting a timestamp into this document, and I'm signing it. So I'm returning this back to the website, and the website previously in Web 2, they can verify this. They know what is the public key of Google, and they say, oh, it's Kostas again. Nobody else can actually give me this document signed by Google, because Google wants them to authenticate on their system. So I trust Google on this, and then I accept this user is Kostas. What is the problem with the previously created solutions? There was not a way for Kostas to add the public key, so Google can bless the public key, and then eventually the wallet or the website can have another credential from myself that I created. So what we did is, before we ask Google, hey Google, I'm authenticating with you, I want you to give me a signed document that it's me, but please, I just created a fresh public key. Also bless this public key as well. So when I go back to the blockchain, I go back to the website, and I'm telling you website because you will see why zkLogin can be the future of DocuSign as well. Imagine, like, now that we're talking about addresses, a lot of people in your channel today will also think about new startups. And I'm telling you, it will happen. It will happen because if you understand how it works, you will see, new ways of using zero knowledge proofs. So we sent a fresh key into the Google infrastructure, and Google signs along with my ID and links a fresh public key with this document that it signs, and then return this back. And what's happening now, what we said, okay, it returns back, but we cannot use this document like in public site. We cannot just send this into the blockchain, because people will see that it's me, Kostas at blah, 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 and this Kostas has this public key, and then eventually I'm hiding all of this pseudo-anonymity that I have on chain. So what we did is we added, like, on top of it, some extra like information that your wallet is pushing into this particular like document, which is a salt. Like, imagine some randomness that the wallet is creating. The wallet cannot authenticate on behalf of you, but the wallet can add something there, right? And then this randomness enables you to hide the information on chain. How? By getting all of this document and the signatures from Google, putting it for you. You can imagine like a black box, like into some cryptographic function. We call it zero knowledge proof, that hides all of this information. And the only thing that says to you is, oh, this fresh key is blessed by Google. The salt is the same. This is the address, but nobody can see what is inside this document. Even Google cannot see their signature on chain. That's the technology behind zkLogin, right? So we managed to get all of these signed documents from Google, link it with a fresh key, link it with a 2FA, which is some salt information like pepper and salt, and then eventually hide it. We put it on chain, and because we have like For different souls, you can even have multiple accounts under your name. This was not possible before. Even the applications, you could see that they do social logins for the blockchain. At the moment, they're linking all of this with a particular wallet. Well, what we did is we created a protocol and we allow every wallet to implement it. It's not a benefit of a particular vendor anymore. It's a protocol. This is something that people should understand. It's not Misten is getting the credits for this. It's we allow the protocol. You are a blockchain like wallet provider. Go implement it, and you have your own wallet supporting like zero knowledge proofs plus social logins, and you don't rely on a particular third party. There are some other like competitors in the space, and then you have to pay them to actually use their product. For us, it's nothing. It's open, and it's a primitive in the Sui network without the smart contract. That's the benefit of zkLogin.
Awesome. And it's not just Google that you're working with, right? I remember from previous conversations and previous presentations you've given, the intent is not to say, right, well, we'll just create this really cool zero zkLogin in partnership with Google. The actual intent is that this is open to any
we already
Web2 SSO provider.
Yes, we already support Twitch. There is Apple. There is many other things that are coming, like in the next few days. It's an open protocol. Imagine zkLogin as being a protocol to allow any SSO provider to be able to bless fresh keys for us and create addresses. Anyone can do it. And now we're doing with email providers, but imagine what will happen in the future. Telephone providers. And imagine what else can happen in the future. Something else that defines your identity. Even your bank can be a provider. Everyone can be a provider. Right? That's the magic. We don't specify, use this wallet. From now on, for social login, you have to use, I don't know, there are some competitors out there, but in practice, we gave a tool into the community to create their own wallets. It's fine, right? It's secured by the protocol itself. As we do with Move. Move is secured by definition as a language better than Ethereum. We took the same approach and we created an authentication system that is secure, and now people can use it.
Very cool. And so if you're a regular user today, and I think Spiros in the chat is coming with a question that I think maybe this or adjacent to this, you've already got your Gmail or your Apple ID and so on and so forth. Are there extensions you need to download? Are there specific passcodes you need to download? How does the user get from having their Gmail to having zkLogin?
Okay, that's a great question. So what we did is we published the SDK. Any website, any wallet provider that they want to support it, they just use our TypeScript SDK or Rust SDK. They put it there and it works. And there are websites that have embedded wallets. You don't need to include anything, right? You can go to zkSend. We will discuss about it later, I guess. zkSend.com is a website. This website embedded, like there is an embedded zkLogin internally, zkSend.com. And then you just log in with Google and you have your own wallet on the browser. And this can be an app, like you can imagine in the future, some blockbuster gaming companies and studios, they can have an embedded wallet inside their platform, their game, and you don't need to install anything. That's the trick of zkLogin.
Super powerful. So again, part of this is as a website or as a whatever provider, as an app provider, game provider, decentralized app provider, your job is to embed the zkLogin capability via the SDK. That allows you to just have the regular login with Google, Apple, Facebook via zkLogin.
Exactly, and it's hidden, right? People don't even know that they have a blockchain account. That's the nice thing.
Back to enabling easy onboarding, right? And I remember on any number of different experiences going through the journey of, well, you need a wallet. Okay, we'll go set up a wallet. Oh, you need some crypto in here too, so you probably need to go and sign up with a crypto provider. Oh, and it's not one you already have, so you're going to have to go through validation from that particular on-ramp, off-ramp provider, whichever insert name of crypto company pay here is going to be the one to provide you this random token. And after that, wait 3 days for your approval to go through, or send pictures of your driver's license, the name of your 3 dogs, and your social security number here, by which time you've given up enough information to have been thoroughly phished by somebody who may be looking at these sorts of things. And that's just not the way to do UX and onboarding. Back to the original pain points.
Exactly. We're talking about self-custody, right? You are in control of your account. This is very important. And there is another thing that actually benefits all of the game providers. Some in the past, as you said before, they have embedded wallets. The problem that they used to have is they are custodians. If they control the key on behalf of the user, there are some restrictions where you need a license to operate. It's not so easy, right? Plus, the user now doesn't control their funds. It's the company that controls their funds. zkLogin is also solving the problem of not requiring a custodian license. It means that you can have login with Google in your application, in your website. You don't rely on a particular third vendor because it's just a protocol. Plus, you don't control the key for the user, so you're not a custodian. So this opens the door for many like companies to operate even in more stricter the restrictions, like in the US, New York, and some other places where it's more complex to have this type of embedded wallets.
Very good. I like that. And at that point, if you're creating a Web3 game that includes crypto tokens, NFTs, and your own custodial wallet, are you actually doing Web3 at that point? Or are you just doing a version of having your own cloud-based wallet with the data being held by the company? Have you actually changed anything?
This is true. Yeah, you're right. I mean, maybe you're not. You're not creating the Web3 experience and everything. And by the way, we have a new feature that is coming. I'm starting gradually on the features, which is multi-sig and zkLogin. In the future, you will have login with Google and Facebook, or login with Google or Facebook, or login with Google and you have a mnemonic, but the mnemonic put it in your vault. You never use it again. Only if you lose your Google account and you go back to your mnemonic. So imagine how powerful this is, right? This is like, yeah, I see. It's like a 2FA solution. And now with multi-sig, it will be a 2FA on top of 2FA.
Yep.
So you can exactly have...
Shout out Dirk, who's jumped into the comments here. I'll read it out for those people listening on podcast. Companies could use a company salt. So that particular extra detail, that particular extra information that you add in to the cryptography before you go through the process and create the key. You could have company specific. That could be your second factor, so that only company authorized users are able to use that encrypted data or store on chain. Shout out Dirk for already imagining future use cases, and then multi-sig on top of that. So multi-sig plus 2FA.
Amazing. And they can also think of a solution where the same user can have multiple salts, and actually the same user has multiple accounts on chain. It's like BIP32 on the Bitcoin protocol, right? You can have as many accounts as you want with the same identity, but nobody knows the link between them.
Love that. And so we're starting to get into some of the use cases. So before we do that, let's set it up officially, and we'll start going to some of your favorite use cases or some of the examples that you like to talk to when it comes to zkLogin. We've talked about how it works. We've talked about Salt. We've already started ideating on how we can make it better. But what are some of the, beyond just the basic login, some of the processes or some of the experiences where you see this is going to be transformative?
Amazing. So, by the way, zkSend is one of the applications that I'm personally super happy. I didn't create zkSend, by the way. It was one of our employees who had the idea, we have zkLogin. Can we create a website where you just have zkLogin there, embed it, and people can just transfer money here and there? Then eventually we do it. We support more asset types. We have even direct email addresses. How can you do direct email address, right? Let's go now to interesting applications. If I know your email, and I know how you can create like an account. I mean, our friend before mentioned that the company can pick the salt, but in practice, even the sender can pick a salt for you, right? So I can pick a salt. I can create the account I know what the account is. It's a one-time account. I'm sending you money there. Then you just go to your wallet. I will send you the salt probably by chat, and then only you will be able to actually grab the money. This is a very interesting like application of claimability. You know, we have this now with Revolut and Venmo. Probably you can send money to an email or a phone number. We can have it with zkLogin. And imagine how this changes the spectrum of, do you need to onboard to receive something? No. I can send you something before you even know what Sui is, before you even know what blockchain is. Go and claim it, right? So this is an interesting future extension, and it's not only onboarding. We solved the problem even before onboarding. And this is crazy interesting, right? And then you as a sender, obviously, you know the address, but then the user can get the money and send them to a different address afterwards. But now you manage to find someone. This is discoverability, right? And now you have discoverability and claimability, things that didn't exist in Web3. And like some Web2 centralized applications managed to have it. And now it is possible, right? Because you don't need to know a key from a user to send them money. You just need to know their email or their phone number if we had SSO providers with phone numbers.
Absolutely. And so you can go a level further than that and say, well, let's not just stop where they can claim crypto from a particular crypto wallet. Let's add the off-ramp at the end, so you can just say, right, it just passes straight through. So
Exactly.
you don't even have to worry that the third party necessarily is a custodian for crypto. You're just using crypto rails and zk for anonymity to be able to pass an amount of value to somebody else who can then receive it in fiat.
Exactly.
Which is the solving the remittances or solving the latency of banking, or certain time of day, time of night, cost of transfer, whatever you care to call it. This is for the underbanked or for the unreasonably banked.
You mentioned remittances and unbanked people. We should have hired you at Facebook back then, because it was one of the most discussed topics in the company, right? It was very difficult to solve it. People are not familiar with Web3. We're building something there. We couldn't find a solution as zkLogin. And one of the reasons that actually, as we discussed before, these big companies cannot create easy new blockchains, new stable coins and all of this stuff, is because we didn't have the methods back then for privacy and selective privacy. Now we do have them, right? And now it's the best time to actually start gradually with zkLogin being one of the flagship zero knowledge proof products, and people will use zero knowledge proofs elsewhere. But I can give you another application as well. The fact that we can even link with selective privacy properties. Imagine zero knowledge proofs on top of zkLogin. You can even prove that you are someone at Gmail, or you are someone at Misten Labs, or you are someone at a particular suffix, domain name, without revealing your name. And this means that we can do now geofencing. We can also do some particular KYC without you revealing all of your information. And imagine, do you have a Brazilian domain name and somehow it's from a company that we know they do KYC? You reveal you are someone from there, but you don't reveal who you are. And this is offering a new mixing service. And this didn't exist before, right? You can actually do, you're running a lottery, you're running something that requires some geofencing. Now you have it with zkLogin. So the user only needs to reveal some information, but not the real information about the identity. And the other thing is, along the same lines, imagine wallets now being able to run campaigns on chain. Now your mnemonics can be used on any wallet. You don't know necessarily if the user can use my wallet or the other wallet, and you cannot have some particular wallet vendors, providers to be able to run something on chain, because you don't know who is your user, right? If you want, with selective privacy, you can ask your users to participate, and you can say, I only accept Facebook users or Google users or my users under my wallet, which means I give the salt, but I don't know you. And imagine how this opens the door for airdrops, for other things that didn't exist before, right? So I can view zkLogin as being a primitive where people can build on top of it extra primitives. So we have these selective prove your ID or partially prove your ID and all of this stuff properties that you couldn't do it before, right? This is powerful.
Go a layer on top of that, or go a layer to the side. I haven't figured out whether this is a horizontal or vertical, but we've talked about ID providers being Google, Facebook, and so on. And in many cases, they do some elements of KYC, sometimes not. What if it was a government identity provider and saying, when I was an Irish citizen, I remain an Irish citizen, I have my what's called a ROS account, which is my revenue online service, which is proves that I am or was a taxpayer in the Irish Republic. That login with ROS certifies that I am an Irish citizen. I'm an Irish tax-paying citizen. If I want to be authenticated as somebody who is taxable because of a certain event, or needs to have particular jurisdiction-specific credentials for something related to a transaction or access, I'm good there. That could be related to voting. That doesn't have to be related to finance or payments.
Exactly.
Government ID plus SALT plus zkLogin, you've now got data protecting or privacy preserving governmental login.
Exactly.
Or a login provided by an authority who has the ability to issue certain credentials that then are indisputable. Google and Apple, unless you say, I need you to now pass the email address, I need you to now pass that person's home address, or I need you to pass something more sensitive, which I think kind of defeats the proposition. Rather say, actually, this is a governmental ID. As a result, this is the authority who issued this. Therefore, we trust that this person is not from a sanctioned-screened country.
That's a great comment, and actually you're giving probably the pass to many people here to create startups around this. It's something that we discuss with some governments, to tell you the truth. Well, obviously, you're taking a step further where you say, oh, even for e-voting, we didn't. That's the beauty of it, right? We haven't thought about some applications. I mean, it's the first time that I hear, oh, you can use zkLogin for e-voting. Yes, you can. Now, if you take it further, as you said, right, there is an SSO provider, which is the government, and there is some KYC, and then you combined it with the, like, as I told you before, like the partial identity reveal that I am a user of this, like a citizen in this government. I'm not telling you who I am, right? Now you're opening the door for, I don't know, sealed bid auctions, e-voting, I don't know, any other things that has to do with benefits, and you need some transparency and fairness. Yeah, this is absolutely great. And what we need is just the governments to be SSO providers. If we convince them, right, the protocol is out there. Everyone can be an open ID provider. zkLogin is here, right? We can help you. We can actually build it even together. These things can actually happen. And I can imagine that there will not be only one startup. Every single country probably will have different applications of this. Like you might even, I don't know, prove you're over 21 without revealing your age. You can do many other things with these credentials now. And something that is very important, now that you have zkLogin, you don't necessarily need to prove the partial information about your ID on chain. You can use the chain as like a public ledger, but then off chain, you can actually give to a receiver, like someone who wants to testify something about you, this information, and you are testing it against an on-chain information. However, the whole interaction is happening off chain, which is
that.
Great. And that's
so
how I told you before.
Third-party attestations
Yes,
for an anonymous person.
exactly. So the only thing that you get from chain is the commitment to an address, and then you know this is a zkLogin address, and now you're doing the attestation off chain. And this is why I told you before, DocuSign. Imagine what is happening now with DocuSign, right? We don't know. I can send a link of something a contract that I have to actually sign to a person for which I asked advice. Hey, they asked me to sign this. Would you sign it? But this person has the link now. They can sign on behalf of me, right? And many things can happen, can go wrong. But if you can only be the person who is creating this digital signature, then obviously you can even share the documents and nobody can actually impersonate you. So I can imagine a startup to emerge for DocuSign.
Very cool. All we need is a big pot of coffee, a whiteboard, and I reckon we've kind of end up with an entire wall full of spaces where this goes. We've gone back into government, we've gone across to third parties,
Exactly.
We've gone into voting. These are not easy or simple workflows to transform, but a lot of the Web3 will or blockchain will promises often get stuck when you get to a certificate authority, or when you get to a particular authority that needs
True.
to be part of the process. And those parties, those traditional Web2 parties, will very rarely ever be interested to change their setup and migrate to some sort of Web3 verifiable credential, W3C type of architecture, because why would I bother?
Yes.
That's expensive, that's difficult, that's new. What's the value for me?
Do you know what you reminded me? You reminded me of a recent tweet I had about zkLogin is not that far from a privacy-preserving certificate authority. Instead of asking them to build a certificate authority, come on, just build an SSO provider. Literally, you are a certificate authority and you don't know it because you are blessing my fresh key.
That was
so
what
practically,
I thought. When you said they just need to become an SSO. In many cases they already are. They just don't know they are.
Yeah.
Or your login isn't acceptable or hasn't been connected to a third-party site where other things happen yet.
Yeah, exactly. You're making their lives easier because it's already there. The technology is there. You don't need to build a new CA or something.
No,
exactly.
And so many governments already have interdepartmental SSO. All we're looking to do is say, well, what if you could make that departmental or external to governmental sites? And I'm sure there are probably jurisdictions like the UAE where that's already being done. You've already got multi-banking connected systems. I live in Portugal now. MBWay is a very easy, convenient, connected, real-time system between Portuguese banks. They've done that here. There's versions of that for municipal services. You imagine what's being done in China at the same time. This is not beyond the realms of possible. This is most likely already being done if we looked hard enough.
Exactly. And you know where I'm now, right? That we're having this conversation. There is a reason, of course, as you can imagine.
100%. It's very easy to get passionate about this now. Now you realize you've broken the barrier of no, everybody has to be on Web3. No, everybody sticks with Web2. Once you've been able to create a meaningful bridge that also preserves privacy, or allows you to remain anonymous, everything becomes fair play. Everything becomes open again, which is super.
Exactly. And expect more and more actually extensions of it coming into the smart contract layer now, because now we enabled at the native layer. You don't even need a smart contract, which is also an innovation, right? You cannot do it on Ethereum. On Ethereum, you can only have the basic like elliptic curve keys. And then if you need to do some account abstraction, you have to do it at the smart contract level. Imagine we did the account abstraction at the account level. And this makes it easy because whoever wants to join into Sui, if they don't know Move, they're coming from EVM, they don't care what it is, because it's happening like literally a step before writing a smart contract.
Very cool. And you've jumped into Sui, so let's get there. Firstly, before we get into talk to us about the differentiation of Sui and where it goes to, the name, please. What is the origin of Sui as a term? I've seen it written a million times. I've spelt it wrong about 10 times. What's the history?
Exactly. By the way, it's spelled Sui. It's like sweet without the T. So the name means, like in some Asian countries, it means water, and it's because data is flowing, right? So it's the word for water in Japanese, if I remember correctly, and some dialects in China. But anyway, the whole idea is we created something where there is flow of information so fast that is happening like in a parallel like form, where we said we need the name that actually translates this into some interesting logo, right? And then we eventually picked Sui. I won't reveal it today, but even the company like Misten Labs, I don't know if many of you know what Misten means, but I will not reveal it today.
Okay. Is there a grand reveal coming in future for this one?
Yes, it will be a very interesting like discussion why we picked this one. But anyway, Sui is a word for water, for flowing of information. And that's why you can see waves and you can see all of this stuff like being posted in LinkedIn.
Water-based imagery. And also data flows to the path of least resistance.
Yes, exactly.
So the fact that if you make a process too complicated, or if you make the integrations too complicated, the data will not flow.
Exactly. So the whole idea is, imagine we were the creators of the Libra, DM, everything that Facebook actually built. I was leading cryptography in particular, and our CTO was the creator of the Move language. He was the first actually to think about the design. He put all of the original like PRs there. And eventually we knew that we're building something that is more powerful than Ethereum. I mentioned at the very beginning that I was personally an auditor. I did a lot of white hat hacking, even on EVM contracts and other blockchains. And then we decided actually to build a better language. So starting from what is different like between Sui and all of the rest, is Sui is based on a new language. The language is created like based on the principles that we learned a lot from traditional languages, plus whatever was like the mistakes of EVM. And also we managed to make it like more object-oriented. Imagine that our vision is to be the JavaScript of Web3. And we are the JavaScript of Web3 eventually, because now Move is also used from other blockchains. It's not only us. There are like a couple of blockchains that emerged after like the Libra collapse, the Facebook product, and new actually applications are trying, new blockchains or even existing blockchains are trying to get Move into their stack, because they understand that it's the language that was created after EVM, like the Solidity one, and we know the pros and cons from this language. We know also the pros and cons of some new languages like Rust that are more like focusing on the safety, and we're trying to protect the developer. So unlike EVM, we created a new language that is actually more secure. It allows for some parallelization, actually full parallelization whenever it's possible. And it's also giving you like the object-oriented and the composability features like for free. Literally in Sui, you can have an object called tiger, an object called cat, and this is an NFT. It's not like inside a smart contract. This makes a huge difference, right? Because now you can have objects flowing from one smart contract to the other, and the other was not the creator of the original one, but you can understand what it is. Well, previously, what was happening on the EVM world, where many things should be actually sequenced, you have to wait for one transaction after the other, there is not enough bandwidth and all of this. People focused on a wrong problem, in my opinion, on compression. Everything should be super compressed, because otherwise we cannot even have the 15 transactions per second. And this created all of the environment of all of the L2s and all of the like underlying infrastructures to support higher transaction per second on the top level. Like let's take Ethereum as a concept, and this actually has been solved with Sui because you don't necessarily need L2s. You can still do L2s for other things, like because you want a click, you want like some silo networks and all of this stuff, but you don't necessarily need it for compression anymore. And after you solve this problem, after you manage to have like higher flow, as we said with the Sui logo, higher flow of data into the chain, now you can open it, you can allow structures to exist, you can allow objects to exist. You don't need everything to be a number just because you need to compress it. Because on EVM, sometimes you see a number and you don't know if this number is an amount, is it an NFT ID, is it what it is, right? And then when you're doing the composability, it's a bit more complex. You have to understand like the specifics of what a number represents. While in our case, you can literally see an object. You see exactly that this is an Anthony NFT. It cannot be something else, right? So this allows us to create like a better environment for the developers to think like they used to think in Web 2. Again, with we said onboarding before, bring the Web 2 onboarding into Web 3. We do the same thing, right? Why should we have a different experience on Web 3? And imagine, do you know how many like blockchain developers exist at the moment? It's like a few thousand. It's not like millions.
22,141 active as of the end of last year.
Yeah. How many Java developers exist?
Millions.
It's millions, right?
Millions
and if you take all of the languages out there, we're talking about like the blockchain at the moment being just a very, very tiny portion, 0.0 something percent of the total developer community. So what we said, okay, we don't necessarily need to get all of the users from Ethereum, Solana, like all of the other blockchains. We want to bring fresh blood into the system, fresh users into the system to actually understand that they can do something more meaningful. And typically, you know, smart contracts are scripts, are smaller applications. And even someone who is like a junior, they can create a business, not requiring to create a new database layer. It exists. It's already there, the blockchain itself. You're saving, like moving from Web 2 to Web 3, it's not only for the hype. There is already existing infrastructure. It's like an ERP, like a CRM that is already there for any application to communicate with each other. You know how much like money people pay just to have one database to communicate with the other database, because one is Oracle and the other is something else.
Way more than they should.
Yes, exactly. So the blockchain is also a place where you can find the same people, the same language to communicate, right? So Sui is there. Sui is solving many of these problems. And I can tell you for sure that, I mean, having some of the best experts in consensus and allowing parallel execution. I can give you an example of parallel execution. If I pay you money and someone else like Evan, our CEO, is paying money to Anatoly in Solana, like why these transactions should be actually sequenced, like there should be one after the other. They don't conflict, right? I mean, why don't we run them on parallel? So we found some protocols to actually, for independent transactions, you can run them completely on parallel, and then you can speed up. You can have lower latency, of course, because one is not affecting the other, and at the same time, higher throughput, like higher TPS. And we can support, like even on testnet, we have very close to 300K transactions per second. On mainnet now, we always have like many thousand transactions per second. Even on Explorer, you can see some spikes we surpassed even Solana sometimes and some others. And the reason is parallelization. We have some of the best experts here. And I believe with many awards as well. Imagine we're publishing a lot. I'm very happy that I'm under a team now where we're having some of the best world records, even on cryptography-like performance, some of the best like performing cryptography algorithms. In the Rust language, which is the backed language, the backing language for Move language, we're having records, literally world records on speed. And the second thing is, I mean, even on financial crypto, I mean, this year, which is one of the like flagship conferences for blockchains, we have 3 publications. It's not random, right? It's the team is working on new things coming into the space. So I'm also stating the fact that it's also the rate of innovation in Sui is not even, there is not any other blockchain that is even closer to this. I'm not only referring to the current features, the rate of new features is so fast that is actually offering a new type of engagement. You don't even know what the next day will be because there will be a new feature that didn't exist before. Right? This is what we're focusing on. We're not like a conservative company. We're putting new stuff into the community. zkLogin being one of them.
Fast performance, fast innovation cycles, solving
Exactly.
Web 2 and Web 3 problems. And I guess that when you put together a team full of former Google, Apple, Facebook type of folk, the certain user experience mindset and the certain scalability mindset of those people will drive some of your development. They won't be, some blockchains suffer from being overly purist in design. Is it perfectly decentralized, perfectly performant, perfectly coded, but at the same time with limitations such that it might not be able for enterprises or certain use cases to be able to deploy. And that's okay. Everybody should be in their segment. But at the same time, when we make some of those choices, we very clearly then are doing that at the cost of adoption in some cases.
Exactly. We're rational, right? We're practical and rational. Plus, as you said, like the fast innovation pace. This is very important.
For sure. And while we're on the topic of adoption, seamless segue into the next or final topic here is, I've been observing zero-knowledge technology, going to conferences. My team at Deloitte back in 2017 were participating and really excited about zero-knowledge. My CTO at the time, who's now moved on to greater and better things, Antonio Senatore, said, I really think zero-knowledge is going to change everything. This is the capability that we need to make decentralized but data protecting feasible. And yet, 2017, that was 6 years ago, we are still yet to see mainstream wide scale adoption of zero knowledge applications, zero knowledge chains, zero knowledge capabilities, SDKs like zkLogin become, I want to say Web 3 common to start with, and then Web 2 common after that. In your view, as a cryptographer, as somebody who looks at this every day, who's looked at the various different permutations of different curves, recursion, trusted execution environments, acceleration, what more do you think we need to see wider use of ZK in our everyday lives?
By the way, you are giving me a great pass because I know Antonio, your previous CTO, in person.
Well, there we go. And
my regards, Antonio.
Massive regards.
Yeah. So, by the way, the pass is very important because you know how I met Antonio? I met Antonio because we had at Facebook back then the first zero knowledge proof based algorithm to do financial solvency, like proofs of solvency for the blockchains. And Deloitte was presenting because it was the first company that they did a Merkle tree way of verifying the liabilities of users, right? And then we said to Deloitte, oh, you can use zero knowledge. You can even hide the information from balances of the users or the IDs of the users. So here is the thing, right? And the pass is very important because there are multiple ways to do zero knowledge proofs. There are concrete zero knowledge for solving a particular problem, not necessarily like a generic mechanism, like a generic algorithm that can have arbitrary computations. And one of these applications was literally the proof of solvency that I mentioned to you. There is ways to do only with bullet proofs, which is a very basic algorithm. It's not super fast today. However, for this application, because it works very well for range proofs, proving that the value is between 0 and a particular max value, it was very easy back then. Not easy. If you have the information on how to build a system with Merkle trees plus some zero knowledge proofs, these systems were super powerful, super fast, because they didn't need to execute arbitrary computations. They were actually specialized for solving a particular problem. And this can actually work even today, almost for anything that we want that is not super complex. It doesn't have billions of execution steps. Proofs of solvency was one of them. By the way, we solved this problem with zero knowledge proofs. And now I know there are many exchanges that are using our algorithm, my algorithm, into their own solvency attestation. Now, we're going into the generic way, right? Can we use a new virtual machine, something new, where similarly to zkLogin that we're using a generic zero knowledge proof algorithm that we just created the circuit, we created all of the elements, and then eventually we managed to compress this into 1 million gates. This is important to ensure that it's possible to prove a statement under the 2 seconds barrier, because UX-wise, it's very important when you log in with Google or Facebook, as I said before, very quickly, while you're getting all of these signed documents from Google, you're also producing the zero knowledge proof. This is expensive. It's still expensive now for arbitrary computations. There are many algorithms out there. There are many different features. What I believe is the future is, first, let's have applications. money from VCs and other like organizations or even individuals, angels and all of this stuff will not easily flow into this space, especially now that we have machine learning as being the most important like sector. Yes, exactly. So we need applications. I believe with zkLogin and some other like cool things that are happening, zk email, there are like some very interesting L2s. There is Zcash who is doing like confidential transactions. Now we have like after all of these 3-4 years, we have applications that we understand that, oh, selective privacy or full privacy is actually very important. We can see real applications, authentication here, private amounts on the other side. There might be like confidential KYC in other places, compression from like the L2s to the L1. People now see it. So we started with applications. In my opinion, this was more important than the technology itself. There is adoption in the sense that the application are now making, like creating a new community. They're making money. Some other blockchains are making money because of this. So I believe there is substance now. There is already the base that we build on top of it. Now the algorithms. Provers are still expensive. Even if we use hardware, we can parallelize it. But for smaller startups, they always have this dependency with the hardware like vendors, or even the ones who are designing the circuits for them. If you want to do something like so custom that is actually reducing the number of operations that you're requiring for the problem you're solving. You are still using a generic algorithm, but you need to create your logic to be as compressed as possible to reduce the amount of time it takes for proving. In zero
and
knowledge
a decentralized prover accelerator, or that kind of decentralized infrastructure for being able to do it, is probably still even earlier.
It's still early.
It's an opportunity, but then you've also got multiple decentralized provers, multiple standards on which you could be doing it, multiple curves that you could be doing it on. And so being able to get to a standardized view and sufficient capacity to accelerate sufficiently.
Exactly.
The decentralized
for some problems
becomes hard and expensive.
For some problems, you don't care, right? So there are situations where, for example, let's assume that you're a machine learning system and then you want to prove something and you can wait for 1 minute. It's okay. If you go to high frequency transactions in the blockchain, you have to actually make the transactions fast, right? You cannot, even if you send it to a decentralized like prover, you cannot wait for like many seconds. Otherwise, you are losing some opportunities. It can be like you are prone to MEV. You have to make these functions to run in 1-2 seconds. Some like basic applications, as I said before, confidential transactions are happening now. There is adoption already. For some others, in my opinion, something that is happening, and this year we will see a lot of actually innovation happening, is I personally see and I interact with people that they can manage to have like 10 times faster provers, even at the protocol level. If you combine this with the decentralization of like parallelizing the proving like functions, we will see some check-based snarks to actually win into this race. And we personally are thinking of moving from the algorithm that we're using now, Growth 16 that we have. And as you understand, it was created on 2016. This is when all started. Now we have better algorithms, and I can envision in the next 2 years, like more generic applications, even the more complex, even machine learning with ZK will happen. It's happening today, but if you go to very complex like neural networks and all of this stuff, it's not efficient. Sure. I believe it will happen. Give the research community 1 year to come up with better algorithms. At the moment, I think we can go up to 10 times better. There is Starks as well. There is Snarks and there is Starks. Like I would not even call it Starks, but I will call it like hash-based zero knowledge proofs. There you can already see some advancement in the sense that they are faster than the others that are based on elliptic curves. However, the size of the signature, the size of the proof is long, right? And in the blockchain, sometimes you cannot take 50 kilobytes as a proof because it's already too expensive. Imagine you have to share it between hundreds of validators and then the user should download it and all of this stuff. So we're focusing on 2 aspects. First, the most important in my opinion is faster provers. Second important stuff is lowering, making smaller outputs of the zero knowledge proofs. I believe in the next year, we're going to have this year, actually 2024, some very interesting innovations. And in the next 2-3 years, the adoption that you're mentioning here will be there. I know for sure proof of solvency will be a thing for some exchanges, including the big names. I will not mention names, but I'm personally talking to them. It will happen, but I can see why generic proof systems and decentralized provers with NVIDIA GPUs and all of this stuff. There are startups right now asking for money for this. It will happen. If the money flows into the space,
for sure,
then
for
things
sure.
that we didn't expect will happen. It will be a thing, right? In 2 years, 3 years, give us 3 years as research community, and then again we can have this meeting.
There we go. I look forward
That's
to
all.
it. And
Yeah.
it's an amazingly fast-paced space, Web3, no matter what. But it feels like we're now just over a plateau and onto the other side, where we start looking at data protection. We start looking at the bridging to Web3 and Web2. We don't have time to talk about the implications of changing elliptic curves from existing protocols that are zk based, and whether that's going to completely reset everything and having to completely throw away the previous chain and start again. There's some challenges with that too, but I genuinely believe there is more interest, more energy, more power, and prospects like zkLogin, zkEmail, and other things that we're seeing. Those are the proof points. Those are the ones that we need to get people just interested, to get over people already had enough trouble with crypto and blockchains, right? zk in and of itself, when you start getting into the moon math and the terminology, it's already not as acceptable and not as easy for people to pick up as the rest of Web3, which is already hard.
Look, we need better tooling, right? We need better UIs to actually help early developers to utilize this technology. There will be a middle ground, we discussed it in the past as well. We have the trust executed environments, SGX, and all of this stuff. Until we go into a full-fledged zk, you will see solutions emerging that combine both. You might have some zero knowledge proof, and part of the calculations is happening on an SGX device on Intel, right? And then eventually we know the multi-party computations and all of this stuff. In my opinion, there are 3 technologies that will actually flourish in the next few years: ZKP, MPC, multi-party computations, and fully homomorphic encryption. If we have these 3 tools, we can have applications and startups that, were unimaginable 2 years ago. And if there are PhD students now, or people who want to do PhD, focus on these 3 topics. In my opinion, it's the holy grail of cryptography at the moment.
There we go. Not financial advice. Always do your own research. But in these particular topics, please go and do some research, because it's much needed. Kostas, it's been brilliant talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've got 1,000,001 things on, but really excited at the prospect of zkLogin. It was one of those ones in Web3 where when I first saw it, I thought, that just makes an awful lot of sense. And I'm sure a lot of people listening in would get it too. Thank you very much indeed. Have a great time out in the Middle East, and stay safe out there.
Thank you, Anthony. And have a great day. Actually, I'm open for any follow-ups, either on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you want. Okay.
Fantastic. Well, find him on LinkedIn, find him on Twitter, Kostas Kryptos, and have a great rest of your day.
See you.